This evening. It is my pleasure to be your moderator. I am a member of the National Court Reporters Foundation Board of Trustees. I serve as trustee and chair-elect, and I am also co-chair of this wonderful task force, the Ask Me Anything Task Force. We began this series last year with a once-a-month 1-hour session on various topics. We have done topics about what it's like to attend a convention, what it's like to be a freelance court reporter, what it's like to be a captioner. It's aimed at new reporters, student reporters, people that may be looking to change from one area into another, all sorts of topics that as we gather together as professionals, we can share our knowledge, ask our questions, and have a little social time outside of making a record. So I thank you for joining us for tonight's exciting topic, the power of networking. We have an esteemed panel this evening that are going to answer questions for us. If you would like to ask additional questions, you can put those in the chat box and we will address as many of those as we can as time is available. Also, our panelists, I have asked that if they can put their business email and or business phone number that they're willing to be contacted at. If you have something that comes up tonight, a question that we didn't get to, something you'd like to talk about more in depth, and you want a connection, Kristen Anderson, our president of NCRA this year, has set up our entire year about the power of connections, and that if you want to have a networking point tonight and you want to reach out to someone, you can take their information from the chat box, the business email or business phone number that they share to reach out to them afterwards. So I wanted to make sure I said that. So they had enough time to load those into the chat box as well. So that's just a little intro about the hour that we're going to spend together tonight. And so what we're going to start with is who is sitting here in front of you. So some of the people in front of you are NCRA and NCRF staff. We have Jill Parker-Landsman, who is our NCRF staff member that helps us, and she's absolutely wonderful and a great asset, and we couldn't do any of the things that we do at NCRF without her. We have people from the NCRF trustees on the call tonight. I see Pat Graves. Thank you so much for attending tonight, Pat. I see Sandy Narup, who is not just an NCRF trustee, but she is also a member of this Ask Me Anything task force. Don't think I missed any other task force members, but I'm especially going to shout out my co-chair, Cindy Isaacson, NCRA vice president at this time. So Cindy and I alternate who gets to moderate the Ask Me Anything meetings. So obviously tonight's my turn, and next month you can tune in again to see Cindy moderate the next session, which we'll talk about a little later in the hour. So what we're going to do next is we're going to meet the panelists, and instead of me continuing to ramble in your face, I'm going to let them introduce themselves, and they'll have a short opportunity to share things about themselves, who they are, what they do, what their background is. And we will start with our president, Kristen Anderson.
Thank you, Meredith, and thank you to the foundation for doing this Ask Me Anything series. This is great, and thank you all for being here tonight. If you don't know, I'll just keep it brief. I am your current NCRA president for approximately 5 more months, and that would be till August 1st. Anyhow, I'm an official court reporter in Denton County, Texas. We'll talk more about how I ended up in Texas. We can a little bit when we talk about how connections matter tonight. I've been a court reporter for 24 years, mostly as an official, and we can talk more about that. I've been in volunteer service for approximately 19 years of my 24 years. So I'm not a stranger to that. And it's, you get more than you give for sure. So it's been a great journey, and I'm looking forward to the discussion tonight. Thanks for having me.
Outstanding. Thank you for being here. Next, I will call on our esteemed director, Dave Wendhold.
Hi, folks. Dave Wendhold here. I'm the executive director of NCRA and part of NCRF as well. I've been with the organization since 1998, so it's been a long time, but in various roles. And I've been your executive director. I've been honored to be your executive director for about 5, 6 years now. I love this profession, and if you've heard me in any of my speeches, this is my tribe. You guys are my people, and I love fighting for you and running the organization. This Ask Me Anything is fabulous, and I don't want to take any more time because let's get to the meat of it. But thank you very much for being here. It really means a lot.
Thank you for joining. Next, I will call on Max Curry for your introduction.
Hey everybody, I'm Max Curry, NCRA past president, and this is my 35th year of reporting. I was a firm owner for over 30 years, and I am semi-retired now. I'm still reporting part-time some, but wanting to focus my energy more on paying it forward and paying back for this amazing career and everything that it's brought to my life as far as a continued service to NCRA and to our amazing profession, within my state and nationally as well. So I'll pass it on to the next person so we can get to the meat of the matter.
Wonderful. We would love to hear the introduction of Melanie Sontag.
Good evening, everybody. Hello from Cheyenne, Wyoming. I've made a giant circle with my career. I grew up here in Cheyenne, Wyoming. I wanted to be an official court reporter, and I started my career as a state official in northern Wyoming. I followed that by 30-some years of freelance reporting, a little bit of court reporting now and then, and I'm currently a federal official court reporter back in my hometown of Cheyenne. And it has worked out very well, having connections all over the country. Part of those connections were fostered when I served on the NCRA board between 05 and 13, I think I was there. And I'm happy to still be invited to be part of NCRA things. So it will be a good night tonight, and we'll all learn new things.
Thank you, Melanie. You're always an asset. This is Melanie's second time to be a panelist for NCRF and the Ask Me Anything Task Force, so we really appreciate that. Next, I will call on Richard Shuray.
Hello, I'm so honored to be called after Melanie and all these my esteemed colleagues, because I've always looked up to all of them. I'm Richard Shuray. I have been reporting for, I was trying to do the math, I think it's 27 years. I was an official for 18 of those years. I left the courthouse, as sad as that was, because I loved the work I did as a state official, but little did I know I would be even happier in the freelance world, where I get to work with my twin brother as I did in the courthouse, and now we're doing it again with Diamond Court reporting in Southwest Florida. So thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Wonderful, thank you. Michael.
Yep, so I have a similar story to Richard. I worked mostly as an official for the last 26 years. I graduated court reporting school a year after Richard did, but I became his supervisor at the courthouse, which was fun because then I got to boss him around. And then he left about after 18 years, and I left 19 years, and now we both are part of Diamond Court Reporting, which we're very excited. So we went from the official state world to freelancing, and I love it. I couldn't be happier. But yeah, so thanks for having me. Honored to be here.
Thank you for joining. I don't know if I gave the audience participants a heads up about this part, but it is everyone's favorite social media time. If you are interested in being in our photo, we're going to take that next. So I don't know if people that just have their names up and not their video, if you would like to turn your video on now, we're going to give us a 3, 2, 1 and take a photo. And this photo will be posted saying that we all gathered tonight and how much fun it was. You know how that goes. So anyone else like to take their video on? Thank you so much. I probably could have given you more notice that we were going to ask for that. Put your lipstick on, get spinach out of your teeth. Jill, are you ready? All right. We'll do a 3, 2, 1 smile. Okay. She's mouthing to you. You set or one more? One more? Oh, she said thumbs up. Sorry, missed that. Okay. So the power of networking can probably mean a lot of different things. And even as we discussed this as a topic, what would we want to talk about in the power of networking and as it relates to stenographers? Because we work in so many different places. In the freelance context, that might mean, how do we develop business? How do we find clients? How do we build relationships with the people that use our services? But in the official world, then that's where I work. I work in a state courthouse. I'm not looking to book clients and network with people in that way, but I may be looking to network for, how do I build my relationships to become the supervisor of the court reporters? And then, very importantly, and directly related to what brings you here this evening, association networking, whether through your national organization, your state organization, sometimes even your local and software associations. There's a lot of connections. So setting the tone for the different areas of networking, I'm going to call on our panelists individually for their insights. And we do have boot camp coming up in March in DC. And so I am going to start with Dave on this question, because when I was introduced to networking, that's who I learned it from. So Dave, you can lead us off on this question.
It's interesting. Thank you very much for the question. And I'll keep it short so other people can chime in. I think networking is probably one of the most important skills you can have, because whether you're a freelancer, captioner, official, anybody in our profession, you're always networking. And, as a lobbyist, you're always selling, whether you're selling yourself, whether you're selling your firm, whether you're selling your skill set to your judges or the lawyers. So just being able to have that open and candid conversation is really good. And trying to find those key things that you can connect with somebody is the important thing of networking, I believe. Once you establish that baseline, quite frankly, the rest is awesome. It's just storytelling and being interested and also interesting to the other person.
Dave, would you have any ideas to share on where to find additional places to network?
Networking is all over the place. I mean, if you go to the grocery store, you can network. I'll give you an example. I believe, if anybody's ever seen the movie My Blue Heaven, it's an older film, but Steve Martin's in there, and he's like, I tip everyone. That's me too. I had somebody that come to the house, and they're like, no, I don't accept tips. I said, just go get some lunch on me. So I know darn well that when that guy comes back to my house, he's going to do a little extra for me. So it's trying to find, you should network everywhere, because you never know who you're going to meet. You really don't. And that's one of the most important things. Connections do matter. And I've gotten business. I've met very cool people that I can go fishing with, all through just having a conversation. And that's all networking is. It's having a conversation. It doesn't have to be sleazy of, oh, who are you and what do you work for and how can you help me? That's not what networking is about. It's trying to find some give and take.
Thank you. Wonderful. Max Curry, do you have insight to share on this?
Two parts I'll share. Later in my career, I found the most effective networking for me personally as a firm owner was going to the firm owners conference through NCRA and growing as a business person, learning from other people that perhaps have been doing it longer than I had, sharing ideas that I had, and finding better ways to perfect it based on feedback from others that weren't my competition. But early on in my career, and even now, I think the best thing that young professionals, new professionals can do as far as networking is to go to your state convention, go to national convention, but especially go to state convention, because those are the local people that you have the opportunity to connect with and work with and interact with and send work back and forth to. And take it even beyond that. Serve on a committee. Be involved in the association. That's how you really develop friendships that are long-lasting. So some of my longest-lasting and deepest friendships really came from my state association and leadership, and friendships that run extremely deep, that I could call for anything, could call for help, outside of this profession that that all came about because of my getting involved in that way. So strongly encourage you to get involved on a local level and then also get involved on the national level at some point. But it starts at the local level and take it from there. But both are important and both yield different kinds of positive results. But I can't say enough positive about that.
Thank you. Kristen, I'm going to call on you next, tweaking the question just a little bit. As far as association networking, what if you're shy? What if you have a hard time striking up a conversation with someone?
Well, that's a great question, Meredith, because I can relate. When I was a new reporter, I moved to Kansas and I didn't really know anybody except those at my courthouse. And so my managing reporter, she became a mentor to me. And so she encouraged me to go. So I had you go with your local people and get introduced to other people at the state level, because it can be overwhelming and intimidating. I totally understand. I'm having a moment remembering those days, and it's funny how when you're so energized, when you're together with people that have common interests and common skill sets, and you really get inspired to try to make a difference. I think the second year is when I got involved, going, I want to be part of the association and make a difference. And so I think so if you're nervous about it, you need to find your buddies and go to these events. And if that's even on a state level, and then you decide, hey, I'm going to go up to boot camp or leadership training, and it kind of circles back around to things that Max and Dave were saying is you meet people there and your network grows. And so when you start, you think, oh, I'm all by myself, and you're really not by yourself. There's people just like you. I mean, to some extent, people would say I'm extroverted because of the position I hold, but I can tell you I'm introverted. But you have to come out of your shell and do the things that make the best qualities in you come out, and you can serve in those ways. So I just think you can do it that way. And networking doesn't stop just at your events. You need to, within your network at work, is get involved with the attorneys. Whether you're a freelancer or an official, when they invite you out to functions, you should go, because you don't know where those are going to lead. So I don't want to take up too much time. I think some other people want to speak, but I just say you want to do it at your local level and you're nervous, but you always find your little colleagues that are willing to go, hey, let's go down to the punch stand, or it might be your local watering hole bar or something where everybody networks afterwards. And it's just a great another opportunity to decompress and network with people in the legal profession. So thanks.
That was a great answer. And one thing that comes to mind for me with you particularly, Kristen, is you were one of the first people I met at a leadership training when I first began, the process of networking all the different people that you meet across the country at NCRA events. And the best thing that happened was, I met you at one event and I saw you the next time and you were out to lunch with someone, and I said hi because I remembered you, and you were so very kind back and said hi. And all those little connections, they matter, they make a difference. And it made me feel more welcome to that I can meet more people. I'm going to call on the Ask Me Anything Task Force co-chair, Cindy Isaacson, next.
Because we're going to pile on to Kristen, because I also lived in Kansas, and Kristen, I went to my state convention here in Kansas, and Kristen and I were on the same elevator, and we met, and she said, I was in freelance and she was an official, and she said, hey, have you thought about serving on our board? And at the time I was brand new in Kansas, and I said, oh my gosh, not right now, maybe later. But that was, that was making a connection, and it made an impact. And, as time went on, I did eventually serve, and then I had to not serve, when you go through a divorce.
Oh, you went on mute.
Sorry.
Oh, you're on mute again. There you go.
You think I figured this out. You have a couple of kids and you go through a divorce and you finally get your life back on on track, but then you do, and you come back stronger, and you have mentors in your life. And my mentor was when I went to the courthouse was my managing reporter. So, you may not realize it, but the people that you are mentoring, you're making an impact with them, and you're making those connections. So, I've told Kristen this story before, and whether she wants to deny it or but she did impact me, and she's impacted Meredith and other people along the way. So, I appreciate her, and I think everybody else who, that you're mentoring, Max, and Richard and Michael and Melanie and Sandy and all the people that are on here, that the connections that you make, and when you're networking with people, you may or may not realize it, but that you are making an impact with people. And so that's all I wanted to say. So I'll get off now. I'll mute.
Thank you. I'm turning to Richard next. I think I missed your hand before.
Oh, that's okay. Because I could take over and speak forever, and that's not fair to everybody else. but we all care about what our headshots look like, what our business card looks like, our personality, and how we present ourselves everywhere we go is our biggest business card. And like Mike and I were officials for 18 and 19 years, and we didn't even realize we were networking with local attorneys and whatever, because we were officials. We didn't need to do it. And then we went out and branched off on our own. And so many attorneys were contacting us. We didn't even approach them that said, I'm going to start using you. So much so that other court reporters, we found out they were afraid of us because they thought that we were going to take their business. We called them, because we know a lot of them, to say, we're not stealing your business. There's plenty to go around. But the biggest thing was the attorneys that we were going to that said they would hire us. We would Christmas time go in there when things get a little slower, to go to wish them happy holidays, bring cookies, whatever. And because of COVID, everybody works from home still. So, that's here to stay. And a lot of the offices were empty. And one of the attorneys, after going to his office for like 3 or 4 times, never ran into him. And he happens to pull up behind us at the gas station on a Sunday afternoon. And that's when we got to talk to him to say, hey, we're off on our own. And he said, I'm going to start hiring you from now on. And he has ever since. And that was last Christmas. So it happens everywhere. And I think that's what Max said, that it's everywhere you go. And it is, or maybe Dave said, or maybe you both said it. It is wherever you go. Like we go to happy hour. You don't even have to drink if you don't want to. Go to happy hour anyway, because you're going to, and especially if you're near where all the law firms are, or the courthouse is, you're going to run into somebody. What we do is, you're there for a hearing in the courthouse or a trial. And Michael just had success with this. You set up your machine in the hallway, because there's somebody that's going to say, oh, good, there's a court reporter. Especially for men, they're always expecting it to be women. You're now networking. Your steno machine is now your business card. And we picked up a new client that way, because Michael was free and available, and his job just ended. He stood there with his steno machine.
Outstanding. Melanie.
I just wanted to tag on to that and bring it full circle. When I'd been reporting, I think 6 or 7 years, and left the official world to become a freelancer. And it sounds so scary to say, oh my, you have to network, you have to do this and that. And number one, don't be afraid of networking. You're doing it all the time anyway. But number two, tying back to what Max had said about joining our associations, that is the reason the Charades know so many people. That is the reason that other firm owners take their calls and have conversations. They're friends with them. And I found that association work really tied nicely when, people got to know me. I wasn't trying to be a cutthroat business person. There was plenty of work to go around, et cetera, et cetera. And as Max said, you start going to some firm owner events, you meet other firm owners, you learn who to network with across the country. Many times you don't even meet those people in person, but you have a networking arrangement with them clear across the country, different places. So the association involvement is a huge, huge building block of networking in general. And then I'll have more to say about conventions when we get to that part later.
Outstanding. Max Curry.
To piggyback on something that Kristen and Cindy both said about going to a conference for the first time and not knowing anyone and perhaps being a little shy. You know, one thing I did early on when I started going to firm owners was I started looking around at the other people that obviously didn't know anyone either. And I would go and, you know, you could tell some people knew each other and they were already little groups. But then I looked at the people that didn't seem to have anybody and I invited them to lunch. I would get a group of them and invite them to lunch. And, you know, the first year I did that, I think that I ended up inviting 6 or 7 people to lunch. And by the time firm owners ended, before, you know, I became president and was just attending on my own, you know, we were having 20 and 30 people go to lunch with us. But I was specifically looking for people that obviously they were new to the conference. They didn't know anybody, to make sure that we were pulling them in so that they would meet people. So I say that to say that's a really great way for you to break in and meet people, is when you go to a state conference or, you know, something that's going on, when there's an opportunity to have drinks or to grab a bite to eat, look around at other people that don't seem to know anyone and go to them and invite them. And you'll be surprised where that.
Did he freeze for other people? He froze for me. Okay. I'm gonna segue into that. You know, I love public speaking and I love to do these presentations. I love things about a positive attitude, but I can't tell you how many conferences that I've been to where I've eaten lunch alone because I was too afraid to reach out. So the next question that I'm going to ask the panel about is, you know, do you have a good introduction line? Max just shared his technique of inviting people to a meal or to drinks. Can I see any hands from the panel? Anybody got great ways to get yourself introduced? Icebreakers. Okay, Melanie.
It doesn't seem that complicated, but I'm always paying attention to what people are wearing. And whether it's someone at church and it's like, what a lovely scarf that is. Or one day years ago, I was in an elevator and this guy just had a striking green tie. It was just, he just looked awesome. And I was like, you look really fabulous today. And it made his day. He was so thrilled, and the lady at church was thrilled. Turns out the guy with the green tie was my witness all day. So I got to stare at that beautiful green tie and his lovely outfit. But you never know what is going to happen. Years ago, there was a story about just making small talk in an elevator, and a court reporter picked up some business that way, because you can stand there and stare at the ceiling, or you can compliment someone. It's not quite as scary as turning around backward in the elevator and facing people, but you can, you know, casually say, beautiful coat that is, or boy, it's really windy today. Just make little small talk. And if you're at a conference alone, and you're sitting at a table, feel free to say, I'm here by myself. Do you guys come to this all the time? Everybody was new at one point, and anybody that's in association work wants more people to come to functions and to be happy to be there and to want to go to lunch with Max again, you know, every year. So people will welcome you with open arms at any time, and just making conversation about, boy, that was a good speaker, wasn't it? Or boy, the line for the restroom is long. Just say something. Don't glue yourself to your phone and cut people out.
So wonderful answer. Any other panelists? Oh, I see hands. I'm sorry, Richard.
To see what kind of Melanie said before, but like the confidence you get comes from experience. So then that's when you feel like you can talk to people and it's easier to network and do all the things that we're here to talk about. But it really does, like, yeah, I could say I became a better court reporter sitting in court every day. That's how I became a great real-time writer. But what gave me the confidence was going to conventions, talking to people. Like Melanie said, we were those shy people too once, you know, but the first time I met Melanie, she saw me in my hangry state when there wasn't enough food to go around. I was about to gnaw my arm off. so I will forever apologize about that, taking out on her, even though it wasn't her fault. But it's that camaraderie that you build when you, even if you can't make it to every convention or any convention, it's coming here, being a part of this, reaching out to people afterwards or beforehand, and finding your people that you can have in your corner. That's what makes you the confident reporter and the better reporter to have the confidence in yourself to keep going.
And not chewing your arm off makes you a much better real-time court reporter at this point. So that was a win-win that day.
We all live to fight another day after that.
Wonderful. Michael.
Well, to Kristen's point, if you're an introvert, but the more you attend conventions and things like that, you get to be more comfortable, and now you're talking to people that you know, but now you feel more comfortable talking to people that you don't know. There was a time, gosh, 20 years ago, Richard and I went to our realtor we just bought a condo together. And he wanted to take us to dinner, and my sister was planning this huge party for her office for like 50 to 70 people. And so she asked our advice. We said, oh, go to this place. They'll be great. Well, our realtor ends up picking the same place for dinner. And so he goes, I'll meet you in the bar. Well, now he's in the bar area and there's like 100 people in there. And my sister wanted us to go and meet a bunch of people, and we had to find our realtor in this who didn't know that it was our sister. And so we get to this bar, and Richard says, how are we going to go? And we weren't as extroverted as we are now, but Richard says, how on earth are we going to come in here and handle this? And I'm like, I don't have time for this. So I literally screamed, the twins are here! And everybody stopped talking and gave us a round of applause. I'm not really sure what the applause was about, but hey, whatever, it was our entrance. I tell that story not to embarrass myself, but to say, find your entrance. So if you have to go up to somebody and say things like, whatever your line is, don't feel bad about it. If you don't get a good reception, it's their problem, not yours. Just say, okay, well, that's obviously somebody not worth talking to, or people not worth talking to. But it worked for us that day. So, who knows? It'll work for you.
I love it. Dave Wenhold.
I love that. That's awesome. One of the things I think is important is just be kind. I always believe in complimenting somebody, and it's not negative or anything like that. Like I'm trying to find a way. I mean, I can find, hey, nice shoes, great sweater. Did you like that speaker? Whatever it is, because some people may be having a bad day and they're looking for somebody to chat to. You're trying to open yourself up a little bit and share your experiences, your love for the profession, or even yourself. But just be kind to people, and you'll find out that people will be kind back, and they may become your best friend. I mean, so many people on this call, I know because we've hung out at conventions and we've met each other and we trust each other. But that comes from taking a chance, being open, because chances are if you're kind to people, they'll be kind to you back.
Wonderful. And I, in a little way, label that as being genuine. In the process of networking, if you overthink it too much, you might not come off as genuine. Kristen, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to share. I know life takes a little bit different turn for you when you serve on the NCRA board, and a lot of people do know who you are, but some people don't. And I like to go into a room sometimes and sit at a table where nobody knows who I am, and just to find out how they're enjoying convention, whether it's if I'm at a state convention or NCRA. Even you could do it in the awards ceremony. When you go in there, people are all excited about it, want to see how everybody did. And so it's refreshing because as a leader in the association, we deal with a lot of different things that are going on that can be heavy, and some are very rewarding. But it's just sometimes refreshing to be at a table where nobody maybe knows who you are, and getting their take on how the conference is going from their point of view. I really do enjoy that. So that's one thing I wanted to share, and I didn't want to talk too long, but thank you for letting me do that.
Oh, love hearing from our panelists. Thank you. Max Curry.
One thing I'll share, we were talking about if you're shy and how do you make an introduction or how do you connect with people. Some of you have probably seen my presentation, Fear, Let It Go. And in that, I talk about that I am a natural introvert, and I had to learn how to do a better job at connecting with people in order to become more successful in business and in reporting. And long story short, technique I used and to make myself feel comfortable was I would put myself in the situation of, all right, I am playing Max Curry, the court reporter. I'm not being myself, I'm being this position. And I found it much easier to then be able to break out of myself and connect with people and have conversations because it didn't feel as much like me. And then if you do that enough and you practice it enough, at some point, your personality and that merge and you become very, very comfortable at doing this. But this was a technique that worked for me. And I've had other people since reach out and say, hey, I've tried this. It really does work. So, consider that as an option as well, to mentally remove yourself in the moment and just say, I am playing a part right now. My part is to connect with people or get to know them or find something in common. And a lot of times, if you're going to an attorney's office and you're trying to find a connection, look around the office. There's tons and tons of stuff there to tell you something about them. Where they went to college, are they married, do they have kids, what are their hobbies? You can see pictures around. They go snow skiing, or they go jet skiing, or they go horseback riding. There are tons and tons of pieces of evidence all around you if you will just take the moment and pay attention. And so that I have found to be more invaluable than anything on the job setting as far as connecting with people, is just paying attention to my surroundings and finding connections there, legitimate connections. You don't want to make it like Meredith was saying, you don't want it to seem pretentious or false. You want to find something legitimate to connect with, and that helps a lot with breaking that ice and finding those things.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Richard.
Okay, so I need to go back to networking for a second because I just got this text that's kind of cool. So when two stories, and I'll keep them quick, but the first thing that the networking everywhere you go, last summer, I guess it was. Yeah, it was last summer. One of our judges was retiring. Michael and I, because we're in everybody's face all the time, they always do a retirement video for all the judges. Two of the judges are professional filmmakers. They have films in film festivals, and they were doing a Star Trek movie, and they casted all the judges. They asked Michael and I to be a part of it. We were the only non-judges a part of this. It was all judges and the two of us. When they showed it at the retirement party, it was all the Sarasota County Bar and the Manatee County Bar associations that were there. And we got a free shout out for our court reporting firm, and it cost us nothing except we had one scene and we didn't know the significance of, it was a Star Trek theme. We didn't know the significance of red shirts, but we died in the movie, which we didn't know that until it happened. So that's one thing. That was free advertising, all from networking. That's the first thing. The second thing, the text I just got, Michael and I got a phone call from two judges last week who we've known since they were state attorneys, prosecutors, and they're both judges now, and there's the barristers balls coming up, and they're doing a dancing with the stars thing, and they called us to ask if Mike and I would be their dance partners. So in negotiating that, we said, well, we'll do it. We've worked with a choreographer before. We were in a show choir in our high school days, so we're comfortable with that. But can we network that way, or can we advertise that way? Can we be sponsors without it costing us anything, since we're giving our time to do the dances? And they said yes. And then so she just texted to say, because we said, oh, I guess we still have to buy tickets. And she just now texted to say, oh no, your tickets are comped. So it's not costing us anything but our time to promote not only court reporting, to promote us as court reporters to the entire bar association that's going to be at the Barristers Ball. And we'll be likely the only court reporters that are there.
Interesting story. Thank you so much. So before we segue into some different areas of networking, I wanted to offer one other tip that has just a little bit of a background story to it. I have a great uncle, and every time that I used to see him at family functions, he would always say to me, what's up, big girl? How you doing? And whether I was 5 or 15 or 25 or 35, every time Uncle Nick called me a big girl. I felt special. And it was like, what am I doing in my big girl world today? It was empowering to me. And my husband turned that into a trick with coworkers because he was bad with names. He wasn't going to remember your name, but he would say, "What's up, boss? How you doing today?" And the person, the same way as being called a big girl, I'm the boss of whatever you have going on. And regardless of whether he remembered your name, you didn't know he didn't remember your name. But that little tip and trick of how you can interact with other people and put a smile on their face and make them feel good about themselves is also a great way when you're getting started in networking, but you're still putting all the pieces together of who is this person? I can't remember their name. So we're going to move on to maybe a little more business end of networking where you're talking about, sometimes we have to solicit attorneys for work or look to, find avenues of revenue for people we're not working with yet. So how panelists, do you feel comfortable asking the non-taking attorney for business? And I would think, Max, you would be a good person to start with for that since that was your industry for many years.
I think this goes back to what I said a minute ago, finding a connection. People want to work with people they connect with and that they feel a connection with or they feel comfortable with. Nobody wants to work with someone that makes them feel uncomfortable or that they just can't talk to. That was part of the struggle I had in the beginning was I was good at my job, but I was uncomfortable with talking outside of the reporting realm, and I had to get better at that. So, if it's at the opposing attorney's office, that gives you the easy opportunity, as I said earlier, to look around the room, figure out what your common connections are. Because to me, that's a great place to start to make it feel legitimate, not just feel legitimate, but be legitimate. And find commonality, find a connection. And that makes it a lot easier to segue into hey, I don't know if you're currently using a reporter or if you have a specific reporter you use only, but I'd like to leave my information with you. We had a great conversation. That makes it so much easier to segue into that if you have something you have found in common to talk about or to communicate about or a common interest that you share. But I don't have a problem asking for business. I just would prefer for it to be, and I always felt this way with me, when reporters were coming to me, I wanted it to be legitimate, not just a self-serving, one-sided thing. And so, I certainly encourage that to find common thread there to go at it with.
Thank you. Melanie has her hand up.
Years ago, I had started my career as an official, and then I decided I wanted to freelance, and I started working with a firm. I later left that firm and went on my own, but I used many of the same techniques over and over again. I had moved to a new town, and I would go around and meet the lawyers, just take them had a list of important numbers at the courthouse kind of thing in my business card and all. And I'm new to town, just want to visit with you. If you have a court reporter you like, I'd love to be number 2 on your list. And it was really effective because it wasn't threatening their number 1 person, but when number 1 screwed up, they had my number handy. And it really turned into a very good deal. I was in that town for about 10 years and built a very big business. But just being friendly, the Mary Kay company calls it warm chatter. You don't have to, barge in and say, I must shake your hand. I must buy you $1 million lunch and I need you to be here right now, right now. A lot of times things are so subtle and they develop over years. But if you've made an impression and you're number 2 or 3 or 6 on the list, sooner or later they will come along to you. And I also found in the deposition world that it made a difference for a firm owner to be out there mixing and mingling in depositions. And they got to know me personally and they realized, oh, you own the firm. Oh, well, I can't always be the personal court reporter, but it does make a difference to get your face in front of your clients and visit with them. And like Max, he's got clients going back 20, 30 years and they still are interested in what he's doing in his life. He knows their kids and their dogs' names, and you stay connected to people that way.
Thank you. So Max has his hand up, and I'm hoping he's going to also address Chris's question. Did you see it in the chat?
I didn't see Chris's question.
Chris posted, Max, what's an example experience you had where someone came across self-serving rather than sincere?
You broke up. Say that again.
What's an example or experience you had where someone came across as self-serving rather than sincere?
Okay. I'll answer that, and then I've got to piggyback off of what Melanie said. So I had a technique when I would interview new reporters that once they made it through the interview process with me, and I had decided that we were going to try them out and see what we thought, I would let them intern with 4 of my top reporters and also intern with me. And I had this one candidate that she was super, super sharp. She was just finishing school. She hadn't completely finished because she was still working on her externship, but she had already passed the RPR. And right out of school, I was so impressed with her. But the response I was getting back from all my reporters was very negative. And their feedback was she's not engaged with me, while we're out in the field. What she was doing, and the final straw was the last one that took her on externship. The reporter was trying to make small talk with her, and she stated that she already had this job, that she knew this was just a formality, which was not the case at all. But the mistake that she was making, where she thought she'd made a really great impression, because I did share, I was very impressed with what she'd done so far and how she'd presented herself. But she was going on these externships and she was having her phone out the whole time, and she was social media. She wasn't connecting and interacting with the reporters and asking questions and acting like she was engaged or learning or interested. She was completely involved in social media the whole time she was out with every reporter. Not do that enough. One, that she wouldn't talk to me. She had her phone out. She was social mediaing. She took pictures with her writer and posted. I cannot believe thing would be, to me, that came across as very non-genuine, very insincere. She thought she already wrapped this up, and it wasn't by any measure. And so I think it's extremely important in those beginning stages to come across as sincere, and I'm interested, and I've got a lot to learn, and I'm here to learn, and I'm here to get started. And so that did not turn out well for her at all. So certainly encourage you that when you are out as a new professional, externing, looking for a new job, making connections, leave the phone in your pocket, leave the phone in your car, leave it in your personal, take it out, stay engaged, stay connected, ask questions, pay attention. That's just a death nail, especially for old dogs like me, that I want to see you engaged and connected and wanting to learn and asking smart questions, not seeing who's seeing your picture on social media. Piggybacking though on what Melanie said, the hardest thing to do, because I was a marketing minor in college. If I didn't make it as a court reporter, I was going to make it as a marketer. So the hardest thing to do in marketing, you have cold, you have warm, you have hot as far as clients. The hot clients are the ones that are clients. They know you, they want to work with you, they love you, you just can't do anything wrong. The cold ones don't even know you're on this planet. They just, I've had jobs where I've gone and I'll see, a few weeks later, I'll see the opposing attorney again, and he'll act like he didn't meet me. He didn't know me. So obviously I was cold to him. He just had no clue I was. The ones in the middle are the warm ones. And they're the ones who already have a positive impression of you. Like what Meredith was saying and a few of the others and what I'd said earlier, I had already made a connection with them. They knew who I was. We had some commonality. It's very, very easy to move someone from warm to hot. All it takes is like what Melanie was saying, if you've got a reporter you're already using, I'll be glad to be number 2. Or if you forget to book a reporter and they're already occupied, if I'm available, I'm going to come and cover it for you. Those kind of things are the easiest ways to move from being warm to being very hot in their world. So the hardest thing is to move someone from cold to warm, and that's where the techniques of looking around, figuring out commonality, common things to talk about, common things you may share, that really, really help a lot in getting you, like what Melanie said too, about bringing cookies, introducing yourself, putting yourself out there. And like the twins were talking about, setting up your writer outside the courtroom in case someone forgot to hire a reporter. Great way to move from cold to warm, and suddenly you're on their radar screen. That can be impactful. It's a hard thing to do, but a really great spot to be once you're there.
Thank you. Melanie, I'm going to have you go next, and then we're going to try to get in one more question before our hour concludes.
Okay, I just want to say a couple of things. As Max was saying, when you rescue someone, they love you for life. So that's a huge one. And then secondly, if you're a young reporter or a reporter looking to move and work with a different firm, please follow the lead of the person who is trying to help you fit into that firm. As Max said, that's why he chose his professionals.
On your mobile to start TV setup.
Someone needs to mute.
Kayla, thank you. Max sent those people out there to get the reaction for that new reporter. And I've had people in the same situation. If they don't want to learn and they don't want to integrate into our firm, there's no need wasting anybody's time. But even if you're an experienced reporter looking to make a change, follow the lead of that person who is trying to help you. Don't talk too much, don't talk too little, but follow their lead. Thank you, Meredith.
Oh, you're welcome. So I'll jump to the question that just came up in the box. Any advice for a CART provider wanting to become an official? Of course, search, but besides certifications, how to find a mentor. So Kathy, I am going to put up my contact information in the chat box as well, because I could talk to you about that for quite some time, and I'm an official. So we'll handle your question that way. And Kristen, where can networking take you?
Thanks, Meredith. It can take you all across this country, as we've heard Melanie talk about her work, and I kind of told you that at the beginning. I'm from Illinois. I do not sound like I'm from Texas because I've only been in Texas for 10 years, but being involved in your big part for me, even in school as a student, was I was a student ambassador for NCRA. And then I passed my state certification and became an RPR. And while I was in Illinois and loved Chicago, I didn't like commuting there. And so when I wanted to go to a bigger city, I ended up moving to Kansas City and loved Kansas City. And I found that through Job Bank Friday, which none of you probably listening can relate to, but that's where all the jobs were posted. And my coworkers would be like, oh, it's this Job Bank Friday. And you'd see about all the jobs that were available. And I found an officialship, and I really enjoyed being an official. But then I changed when I was in Kansas City. I switched and was a freelancer after I was an official there for over 5 years. And I got involved, as I said, in leadership, never really seeking it out. But people along the way are going to say to you, why not you? Why not you? When there's problems, a lot of people like to be critical of things going on in the world, but being part of the solution is something that's very imperative. And a couple of things to bounce off of, like Dave, we've often heard Dave say in his speeches, as leaving it better than you found it, and beginning with the end in mind. And that is so important in your personal affairs and in your work. Think about where you want to be. Think before you speak. And not that any of you don't do that, but sometimes you want to think of those things. I mean, being strategic about your future, but of course sincere along the way, because our profession is so important, and you'll find out what your passion is within it. Whether it's what you do as a CART provider, as a freelancer, or a broadcast captioner, or an official. All of us know and sometimes we can change our mind along the journey. That's what the beauty is about this profession. So it takes you, and then that's where it took me to Texas. I always wanted to be a federal official reporter. And I was like, you always think oh, I'm here, I'm done. And then I met a force of nature named Mary Berry at boot camp after I was in San Antonio for a very short time. And I told you I was introverted. I met her in the elevator, and she's like, if you've ever seen a little Elaine from the Seinfeld, she's like, get out, you're in San Antonio. So that was a friendship. And not only did the steno machine bring us together, I met friends that share my passion for horses. I love my Labradors, all these things. You find different people and connections within our own network, and you see that all over Facebook. So not only do we, celebrate and commiserate on good days and bad days, but we also have our things outside of work that are important to keep us balanced. And then I ended up working for the state of Texas, and it took me from San Antonio to here. And so I wouldn't have done all that without meeting the people I have along the way. And I'm not even want to name drop and everything, but it's being, you want to be deliberate about your future and about your actions, and they do matter, and making those connections make a difference. And I'm going to take up all the time, so I want to give somebody else an opportunity. I'm so sorry, but it's something that's very passionate about. So thank you.
I love it. I love it. And we're up against the clock, so we'll call on Dave.
Okay, real quick. I've always believed the harder you work, the luckier you get. That is kind of I forget that's a famous quote from a golf player, but the same thing with networking. The more people you meet, the more opportunities you will have. And that's just a numbers game. So, yes, you might meet Dave and he can't help you, but he might know somebody that could help you. So it's about selling your brand too, that you are a good person to do business with, and whatever that business is, whether it's fishing or court reporting or whatever, you'll find somebody, in your sphere of what you want to influence by just talking to a number of different people. And like I said, the harder you work, the luckier you get. The more you network, the better you get.
Wonderful. Was it Richard or Michael that had your hand up?
It was Richard. It's just a funny comment because I think it was Cindy that said she met Kristen in the elevator. Then Kristen had an elevator story. Every time, almost every convention, when Michael and I first get to the hotel and we get to the elevator, it's Kristen that's in the elevator. I'm starting to think she just hangs out in the elevator.
Oh, it could be 1:00 in the morning in Vegas, and it's Kristen in the elevator.
Love it.
Kristen's secret is out.
It's your strategy. So I do definitely want to thank our audience members this evening for your time and your interest in this month's topic. I hope you gained some useful tips and tricks that help you with your networking going forward. I would sincerely and genuinely invite you to join us next month. The Ask Me Anything series happens the last Tuesday of the month at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And on March 26th at 8 p.m. Eastern is the topic practicing, graduating, and earning certifications. So if that is a topic that interests you, you do need to sign up ahead of time, and the links will be on all NCRA social media to do that. Further, on April 30th, the Ask Me Anything topic is, what's it really like to attend NCRA convention? And what's going to be special about Louisville, Kentucky? So those are the immediate next two. Be on the lookout. There's going to be some Ask Me Anything vendor training, and dates will be out shortly for that. I thank the committee, the trustee members. I don't think I got to thank Pat Graves, also as a trustee from NCRF, that is in our audience tonight. But you gave up an hour of your time to chit chat with us, and we really thank you for that. And I'll give a couple seconds more before the session ends tonight. If you want to scroll back into the chat box, there are people's connection information and email. Please feel free to reach out afterwards if we didn't get to a topic that you wanted to hear about, or something that you'd like to have a more in-depth conversation about. These are some of the nicest people that you'd ever meet, and they'd love to talk to you further. So with that, I will sign off for this evening, and we will look for you next month. Thank you.